I did a pre-recorded video, but since I've been away for a couple of days, I just wanted to get online for a little bit. We'll chat like last time, like that one time, we chatted a little bit before, and then we'll chat a little bit after, but I'll play the recording in between. So I just wanted to personally say thank you guys so much for all your wonderful messages about wishing well wishes and prayers for my mom. It really, really means a lot to me how wonderful you guys all were about that. It was a few dark days. She is home from the hospital. She's got a ways to go to recover. Yeah, those were some dark days, and just getting the constant flow of messages from you all was really, really super, super nice and super, super helpful when things were dark. What we're going to talk about tonight, it's an update. There's a couple of real simple filings, and if you followed me for a while, you know that I like to keep a running record of the latest updates to the scheduling order. And there were a couple of documents that changed that. I go over those just really, really quickly, and I will post on the community tab the latest scheduling order now. And I'll introduce it in this live. And then I want to talk about something where I say your voices matter. And when I was in Korea, what was it, a little over a week ago, I had seen a video that like really, really made me mad. I wrote this whole script for what I was going to say, but it was a little too angry. And so when I looked it over later, when I wasn't like in the height of being angry about it, I was like, oh, I really need to pull this back a little bit. So thank you, Jane. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Just Khaleesi. Yeah, I'm so glad. I mean, she has a ways to go. She's like down to like 92 pounds. So, but the emergency part is over for now. So that's really good. So I was looking at it and I'm like, it's just too angry. So dial it back and let's try again. Well, as I'll say in the recording, now I'm just emotionally and physically and mentally just exhausted. So I didn't have all the fire. So I felt like it was a better time to voice my opinion on it. But that's what I wanted to say, because sometimes for people who are not part of the legal field, they can be spoken to by those who are. And what I feel is just an uncalled for, inappropriate manner. I don't think anybody needs to be scolded for having an opinion. And the court system doesn't just belong to people in the legal field. Yes, during court, only attorneys can speak on behalf of clients. That's true. But the court system doesn't just belong to attorneys. It belongs to all of us. We may have to use it at some point. We may be called to be jurors at some point. So we have every right to voice our opinions, no matter what our background is, about our judicial system. And you will often hear people say that justice is not just. There are a lot of laws that simply are not fair. There are a lot of applications of law that are simply not fair. And what you think, oh, this is how it should go, often isn't the way it goes. And it's frustrating. Of course, we'll have something to say. And if we just sit around and go, oh, that's fine. Oh, that's fine. Oh, that's just how it is. To me, that's annoying. But when we see something we don't like, we talk about it. And that's a sign of intelligence. And we don't have to be from a certain background to be able to speak intelligently about it. And even if our opinion is wrong, it doesn't mean we don't get to have a conversation. Yes, Tina says court hearings were entertainment in early history. And they are today. I mean, look at court TV. And that's only been in like the last few decades that started happening. But I think a lot of us watch more true crime stuff or court TV stuff than we actually even watch TV. I think it's intelligent people, and I think it's people who have emotional intelligence and want to see justice served that get involved in these conversations. And so I don't like when people are told how they should react to something or what they should think about something. I think we all get to decide that for ourselves. As long as we're not being ridiculous, it's not as long as we're not harming somebody. It's a sign of intelligence to be able to have opinions and to be able to entertain each other's opinions. We speak, we learn from each other. We're not going out like the medieval pitchfork gang. As long as we don't do stuff like that. Yes, Tina, I'm sick of closed court hearings too. I wish federal court was open. I really do. I can understand if there's some really, really sensitive one, or if it involves children. I remember that case that happened in where was it, Indiana, of the young girls who were murdered, and they didn't televise, and that's fine. That's children. Nobody needs to hear about that. And I'm sure the parents preferred the privacy of it. There's in the judge's ruling about this recording, he basically is letting the public know that we matter, that we have certain rights when it comes to the public court system. We have a right of information. So we can also talk about it. And that's the gist. That's where my head was when I made this one. So I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then we'll have a bit of a chat afterwards. It's less than half an hour tonight because that was about all I had in me. Guys, this is just a really quick update today. I first of all want to thank you so much for all of your well wishes and prayers for my mom's recovery. She is not 100%, but after a few days in the hospital, she is resting at home. For her privacy, I don't want to speak on it too much. Just wanted to thank you guys so much for all your nice wishes. Today is short and sweet. It's about the new scheduling order. We had 2 documents filed that affected it. First, we have document 855, which is an order that's in response to the proposal that came from Wayfarer and the Lively team to move some of the dates around. So they requested October 17th to exchange expert reports, November 3rd to exchange expert rebuttal reports, November 12th for a deadline to file the motions for summary judgment, and that was the very last day the judge said that they could possibly move it to. The date he'd granted last week was for November 5th, with the possibility to move it to the 12th. I thought Wayfarer might say no to Blake moving the date, but they agreed on the 12th. And then we have December 5th for completion of depositions of experts. So they have an extra agreement in there that any expert upon which a party intends to rely either in support of or in opposition to a motion for summary judgment will be made available for deposition 7 days before the applicable briefing deadline. And it's good that they agreed on that so that there isn't fussing later. And with all of that in mind, there was a post-discovery conference that was scheduled on October 21st, but that would be just next week. So with all of these other deadlines being changed that involve expert testimony, that needed change too. And we see here in point 4, they requested that that be extended to December 16th. But looking back at the top, he moved that up to December the 9th. We don't know yet if we'll get to listen in on that, but he did publish the time, and that is 10:30 a.m. That would be a really juicy one to get to listen to, so I really hope we do. The next document that will affect the scheduling order is document 148 on the Jones versus Abel docket. Here listed in pink, we see dates that have already been adjusted. The first one, a really important one that I really want to cover, I've been deep diving this a lot, is the deadline for Jennifer Abel to replead the dismissed causes of action, and that was moved to October 31st. Jones parties will get to answer either the complaint or respond to the counterclaims by November 21st. And then they notify us that on October 6th, the court extended their discovery schedule, and it's a little bit different than the Lively case. So their deadlines are October 31st to exchange expert reports, November 21st to exchange expert rebuttal reports, and December the 12th to complete depositions of experts. So they also request a change of their status conference from October 21st to November 13th. But in the order stamp at the top, we see that Judge Lyman extended their conference and it will be together with the Lively Wayfarer conference. So same date, December 9th, same time, 10:30, and which courtroom that will be in. if we do get to listen in, at least the sound is usually better when it's out of a courtroom instead of on Zoom. So that makes the updated scheduling order look like this, and I will post this on my community tab. Normally I leave in the old date so you can see how it's changed, but it's making this Excel file a little too long, so I just did away with all of the old ones. And you'll see the updated blue, which was the first update, then the purple, and the latest ones being green and salmon. And if I were to guess, I would guess this is the last update we'll get on the scheduling order. The final topic I wanted to mention is this document 856. I posted it in my community tab, and I'm sure you've all read it. I know there's been a lot of discussion around this on X, but someone apparently actually spoke to the court about this exhibit that the judge had unsealed, but that we still didn't have access to because it's an audio file. Now, Pacer has the option to listen to audio files, so the problem must lie with the Southern District of New York. Another issue with the Southern District of New York is that a lot of courts require that when you submit an audio file, you must also submit a transcript. I couldn't find anything on the current rules of SDNY, but it doesn't seem like they require that. It could be required by specific judges in their own independent rules, but Judge Lyman does not have such a stipulation. But a lot of judges do require that. It just makes everything easier to have that physical transcript so that it can be looked over in a glance instead of fumbling around with trying to find an audio player. But apparently, it was not issued with her file. Now, there's a lot of questions, a lot of speculation, a lot of accusations being made around this file. I think at this time, we just don't know enough to know what happened with the filing of this document. But I do know when it comes to actually admitting this kind of thing into evidence, not just discovery like we're talking about right now, but should it be submitted to actual evidence to be used in court, it would have a lot more regulation with it. The person submitting it would have to document whose phone it came from, to what phone it came from. You would have to authenticate it. Did it really happen from this phone? Was it really this person calling? Was it really received by this person? Did it go to their phone? The locations of each, because that plays into the legality of this recording. And that's another big discussion that people are having, because what we know is that New York is a one-party consent state, which means that if you're in New York and you're recording someone else in New York or in a one-party state, your consent is all that's required to make that recording. Meaning, if you're in New York, you can record a fellow New Yorker without their consent or even their knowledge. To me, it's ridiculous that any state has this, with the exception of a caveat where, for example, somebody's being abused and they need it to show the proof to court, protecting themselves from a crime, that sort of thing, of course, should always be allowed. But I just can't fathom why any state would say, yeah, you can record this person without their consent or even their knowledge. But here we are. Now, where the issue comes in is, where was Claire when she made the call? Because according to the documents, she's a Connecticut resident. Was she in Connecticut when she made the phone call? If she was, that's a problem, because Connecticut is a two-party consent state. Meaning, if you're going to record someone, you must have their consent. The other issue is that Steve Sarowitz lives in Illinois. It's an all-consent state. She would have had to have gotten his consent to record. California, two-party consent state. If he happened to be in California when the phone call was made, here's what happens. Even if she was in New York where it's allowed, the state with the stricter law on it takes precedence. So you may be okay in New York to call a New Yorker, but if you're calling someone from Illinois or California or Connecticut, their law will overrule yours because they have rights in the state that they're in. So the stricter law is the law that comes out on the top, meaning unless they were both in New York or both in a one-party state, she would be facing wiretap charges for recording him without his consent. This has both civil and criminal repercussions. There's also talk that he might have been out of the country in Denmark. That will be a whole nother question, because what it will come down to is he is a resident of Illinois. The judge would have to determine whether or not his residency could be applied to him when he's abroad outside of the United States. And it comes down to that choice of law consideration of where is the harm felt. If he's an Illinois resident, the judge could rule that the harm is felt in Illinois, or that as a resident of Illinois, his state law would apply to him when he is not in the United States. It's very complex and, unfortunately, all left under the discretion of Judge Lyman. Now that would be different if it turns out that Steve Sarowitz decides he wants to pursue this in a different court from out of Illinois. The point is, it's messy. And the second point is, no one knows at this moment in time exactly how this will play out. Because there's just so many what ifs right now, we just don't have all the information that we need. But if this is determined to have been illegally obtained, which it would be if he was in a two-party consent or all-party consent state, or if his Illinois residency follows him, if that applies, she will be in trouble. If she made the phone call from Connecticut, no matter where he was, she will be in trouble. But with the recording itself under so much scrutiny, we don't know if the court's going to allow it. And certainly if it's going to be used to decide something like 47.1 or sanctions, it very well may come under the same type of scrutiny that it would if it was going to be admitted as evidence into the trial, meaning it would have to be authenticated. Things like the phone records, like we talked about, to show where the phone calls took place from, where the phone call was received, confirming that it was received by Steve, and of course, all of the contents of the phone call to see if it really did fall in the context that Blake is claiming that it is. But the judge ordered that they submit a letter by tomorrow, October 17th, informing the court of how they can go about getting this audio out to the public. It would really be funny if it turns out being added to the website where Brian originally put the first complaint and that exhibit, that timeline exhibit that Blake and everyone so angrily object to. But like I said, you can listen to audio on Pacer, so it's just something that New York needs to sort out. So tomorrow we'll know something about what efforts are being made to get that audio released to us and hopefully have the actual audio by this weekend. I'm currently working on the Jones versus Abel filing where the judge dismissed almost all of the claims against Stephanie. Only one with prejudice, but the rest of them without prejudice. And I want to discuss the ways that her claims can be cured and share some case law, and share some interesting information that I think has a bearing on some of the judge's, in my opinion, bad decisions, where maybe he didn't fully understand the technical electronic issues because there are so many cases that go against his rulings. So I really want to dive into that. And when I was in Korea, I had written an episode. At the time, I was pretty outraged. So I've decided not to go ahead and record that script that I had written because I was really angry when I wrote it. But today I'm just mentally and emotionally exhausted, so I don't have that anger in me, so I want to just discuss briefly what I was going to say in that script. So while I was there or traveling there, I can't remember when exactly, there was a video made by an attorney who used to clerk for a judge. I don't want to say anything bad about this person because I normally really enjoy their takes. But there's a problem that I think happens a lot. And it's been discussed by a lot of us lately, and that's that people who are in the biz, so to speak, they get very calloused, and they get so used to how things go that they make these excuses. And so some of the comments they make to the rest of the public who are not in the legal field are pretty callous as well, sometimes even speaking down as if the non-legal community just isn't smart enough to understand. But my point of view is this. Maybe non-attorneys don't have a right to speak in court. But a very important thing to remember is that the justice system belongs to everyone. So whether we have the right to speak to represent a client during a court case doesn't mean that our voices don't get heard in court or that they don't matter. For example, what do we have here in this document? The judge wrote this entire order. Why? Because of inquiries from the public. This order has nothing to do with Blake. It has nothing to do with Wayfarer. This order's for us. Why? Because it's the public's right. And even this judge recognizes that. That should tell us something very, very important. We have a right to have our voices heard. We have a right to speak about things that we don't like that exist in our justice system. So being treated as if we must have passed the bar in order to speak about court cases is ridiculous. And this is the proof. Right here in our faces right now. It's our justice system, too. But what we were being told in this particular video was that we just simply don't understand what the situation is with clerks. Now we know that the judge's clerks do a lot of the work. A lot of the things that are filed on the docket were written by them. They're supposed to be okayed by the judge. But not only are some of the small things written, but some of the big decisions that the judge has to make require days and days worth of research. If you've never done legal research, it might be hard to appreciate that. But I know for just the little things that I do, when I take a document, I like to look up all the case law. That's a lot of reading. this particular case, we're up to document 856. That's a lot of documents. Granted, not all of them are important. And also granted, most cases do not have near this number of documents in them. But researching what happened through a case is difficult and very, very time consuming. So even if you read a summary, which is usually where you start, if you read a summary to dissect how a case went about, there are still documents that you need to look into further, so you have to look up those singular documents. It costs time. For me, it costs money. Certainly it wouldn't for a judge. He has access to all that. But one thing that you've probably noticed is that when plaintiffs file a document, they list their own case law, and when defendants respond, they list their own case law. These case laws are often at odds with each other because plaintiffs trying to prove one thing and they look up cases to support their claims, and defendants are doing the same thing. So what does that tell us? That with certain topics, we may find decisions that were decided in favor of the plaintiff's take, and we may find some that were decided in favor of the defendant's take, which is kind of crazy, but it exists. So, for example, when Wayfarer is looking up case law, they search for cases that are in their favor. When Blake's attorneys are searching case law, they're searching case law that's in their favor. Now, a judge or judge's clerks should be compiling from both sides. Whenever possible, they should be looking at higher court decisions, because sometimes when you've had these opposing decisions in the lower courts, it eventually makes it to a court of appeals, or even to the U.S. Supreme Court, where that discrepancy gets a final decision that the lower courts have to abide by. It sets a precedent. It's the judge's job, and therefore his clerk's job, to be neutral. And so if they're researching case law to provide to Judge Lyman to make his decision, they should be providing, if there isn't a higher court's decision, they should be providing case law that favors both sides so that the judge can weigh them. Now, if you have clerks, and from what I understand, he only has 2, and they have a bias, which we're all human, it's really, really hard, if not impossible, to just feel completely unbiased. But if they have a bias towards one side, they could be providing the judge with cases that exclusively support that side. I'm biased. I've never denied it. So when I look up case law, that's what I do. I look up stuff that supports the Wayfarer side. But I'm a YouTuber. Everything I show is as if I were researching for Team Wayfarer. I look up stuff that's favorable for their side. There's enough people arguing Blake's side. I don't need to, and I don't have to look up stuff to support her because I believe in my heart that she's wrong. And if you work for a law firm, that's exactly what you do. You don't present documents to the court that are neutral or explain the other side. You put them out there as if your side is right. End of story. So I always think it's funny when people expect the attorneys who talk about the case to be neutral. They're an attorney. They have to be neutral. No, they don't. They can pick a side, and they can come at it as if it were their case and show the case law they would argue. Who said they have to be neutral? There's nothing neutral about an attorney's job. But back to the clerks. From what I understand, there are only 2, and they're rotated one by one. So what this attorney was arguing is that we should all understand that in September, that's when these law clerks are being turned over. Or if it's true that there's 2 and only 1 gets exchanged at a time, there was 1 being exchanged. Her argument was that it's such a busy time. And so this may be why the judge said he's not going to decide the motion for pleadings right now. He's going to decide it together with summary judgment. My issue with that is you can have all of the sympathy you want to have towards those overworked law clerks that are going through this big cycle change in September. And if you've been desensitized because you've been a clerk and you knew what September felt like, that's not our problem. That's your problem. Because you should not be okay to say that the people who have filings due in September or file something in September should not get the same justice that everybody else gets throughout the rest of the year because the court happens to be busy in September. So anyone's motion for judgment on the pleadings, or God forbid they have a motion for summary judgment due in September, doesn't get the same justice that others with better timing get? And we should understand that? No, I don't like that. And I don't like having the feeling of being told off as if we don't understand something because we don't accept that. That's not okay. That's not their fault that this is when the law clerks change. And then there was some report that's like some kind of follow-up on the judge's performance also due at the same time. And so that's a very, very busy time. Again, how do you justify that the people whose documents are filed in that month don't get the same justice because of these other things. That's ridiculous. Then he should have moved trial a month later so that during the month of September, this stuff wasn't coming due. If you don't have time to deal with it because you're getting a performance review and you're exchanging your law clerks so the people trying to file don't get fair treatment, then that's a you problem. And I don't think the public needs told off because we have a problem with this situation. The other thing that I don't like and have never liked is that clerks are recent graduates of law school. So you're talking about a federal court where important cases are being decided. These are huge implications. And we have law students making these decisions. This system is yuck. I mean, let's look at it this way. These guys have not practiced law at all. Straight out of school. When you put them in court in trials, they're going to make mistake after mistake after mistake because they've never done it before, no matter how much they know the law. But these people are deciding this stuff? It's crazy to me. Imagine you or your loved one needs heart surgery and you choose the best cardiologist that you can find, so you feel pretty safe and pretty secure about the procedure. But behind your back, they're taking a brand new student who just passed an exam but has never actually cut. No matter how much he knows about anatomy and how the surgery is supposed to be cut and supposed to be done, do you want that person cutting into you or your loved one or making the decision about how to cut? Of course not. But in the legal system, that's what we're doing. We're taking people who have never practiced in court, and they're sitting there writing these orders and doing the research to provide to a judge for the judge to make a decision. And as a person, as a member of the public who is under the direction of the court, I think we have a right to say, this is crazy. And the clerks, if they're deciding these kinds of things and writing these kinds of orders, perhaps they should be seasoned attorneys. But that's a side point to this. But my point was, the reason that she was expressing this is because some of the attorneys just can't stomach that we have issues with Judge Lyman. But like I said, they get callous because they're so used to the system. And it's very much like what I just experienced at the hospital. When you're dealing with nurses and doctors in the ER, the kind of stuff that they see is crazy. So when you're there with your loved one and you're facing something terrifying, fluid around the heart, high blood pressure, won't stay under control, maybe someone's wounded, bleeding out of control, you've never seen so much blood in your life. Well, they have. And they've seen blood pressure more out of control. They've seen it all. And so they think it's nothing. But that doesn't mean that it's actually nothing. They see people die. You don't want your loved one to die. You don't want to die. You're not going to be calm about it. You're not going to say that's okay. It happens all the time. I just don't understand because I'm not a doctor. But anytime change is going to be made, it requires the public get outraged and speak. I'm not talking about protesting. I just mean what we do here. We discuss. We look things up. We bring them to light. That gets noticed. And I don't think we need to be shamed or scolded for doing it. I think it's important. So people can scoff and roll their eyes and say, we just don't know better, all they want. That doesn't make them right. Because our issue didn't lie with the fact that the judge wanted to wait and rule on the motion for pleadings later. That's okay. But our objection with his decision was a couple of things. That a judgment on the pleadings should not be decided at the same time as summary judgment because they have different criteria. Part of the criteria for summary judgment is going through the evidence, but the pleadings is supposed to be just on the pleadings. Now, if you're deciding them together, you're looking at things with summary judgment that you are not supposed to consider with the pleadings. You shouldn't do them at the same time. The pleadings should be done first, and they should rule out at least part of the causes of action. That actually makes your job easier when you get to summary judgment because you've already knocked quite a few out. That's a lot less research you're going to have to do where you have to bring the evidence into it. So why he would even want to do it that way is beyond me. But the other issue was this. He could say, I'm going to decide this later. But why, in the name of all that is holy, did he feel the need to give Blake such an extended deadline? Weeks after what she asked for, and what she asked for was already ridiculous. They filed their motions to dismiss, and he made the decision a long time later. But that didn't change the deadline of when they needed to hand it in because he wasn't going to decide it right then and there, did it? They still had to hand it in, and then he got to take his time to decide it. Why didn't he do that here? Why didn't he say, here's your deadline, and leave it at that? He doesn't have to rule on it immediately after she turns it in. She could have turned it in at a reasonable time, and he could have ruled on it whenever he pleased. But what we're upset about is the fact that he gave her not just a ridiculous request that she put before the court, but he gave her weeks beyond that, and that was not necessary. Regardless of when he wanted to rule on it, that was not necessary. That is a crazy ruling, in my opinion. And it's a very biased ruling, in my opinion, because she didn't need all that time. And there was no excuse, and he gave no excuse for why he gave her that much time. It wasn't necessary. So, when we see things like that, we have every right as citizens under the court to voice our opinion about it. And we don't have to have some kind of criteria to meet someone's expectation in order to speak out, because this document right here says that we, the public, have rights before the court. So don't you let anyone scold you or scoff at you or tell you that your opinion is foolish and uninformed and therefore unimportant. Like I said, maybe without that degree and without passing the bar, you can't go speak on behalf of a client in open court. But as a citizen under this court, you have every right to voice your concerns about how the court handles a case. And maybe it's not your opinion that's wrong. Maybe it's the one defending a system that they're callous to, whose opinion is skewed. So on that note, this Jones versus Abel that I'm really deep diving right now is specifically about that. It's about the case law that's out there that should have been considered by Judge Lyman when he was dismissing all of those causes of action. And as I go through the definitions of electronic storage and devices and the access to them, how it made me suspicious of what these clerks are putting before this judge as research, and whether or not they put the best cases forward. Does it lie with them? Does it lie with him? I don't know. But what I want to do is show you case law that's opposite of what he ruled. So bear with me while I continue to dig into that. It's very deep. Lots and lots of research. But let's all stand by, excited to finally get to hear that audio. I'm right here with you. Okay, guys. So yeah, that was my rant, and believe me, tonight it was much nicer than the original scripts that I wrote when I was on my trip, when I had just seen that video. So, and I don't want to put anyone down if you guys have seen it and you know who I'm talking about. It's a creator that I normally, she doesn't put a whole lot of stuff out, but I've always liked what she put out. But for that one, I just felt like it was misplaced. And I really hate to see that looking down at you situation. Matcha latte says I like angry Cassidy. I don't have the emotional energy to be angry tonight. But yeah, I think it needed to be said, because I think a lot of people get intimidated by that. And it shuts them up. If you have a more timid personality, maybe you feel like, oh, I'm stupid. I didn't know that. I didn't understand that. But it's not. Yes, thank you. Thank you. If I hear that one more time, and I'm very sensitive to people's facial expressions, like picking up the slightest little eye movement or cheek movement or whatever. So if I detect even the slightest little bit of scoffing or looking down or scolding, it just rubs me the wrong way. Even if it's not directed at me, if I just see it directed at somebody else, it makes it just, I don't care who's right or wrong at that moment. I just don't like to see people treated that way, like their opinion doesn't matter, because all of our opinions matter. And so, yes, I completely agree. It's annoying when they tell us to stop complaining about the judge. I'm going to complain all I want, and your JD won't stop me. Exactly. Yes, it's punching down. Yes, it's arrogance. I hate it. I hate it. And you know what? You know what gets me? Okay, I'm I was a teacher, but I wasn't just a teacher, I was a director. I taught teachers how to teach. So there are certain things that in front of an audience, I would never, ever, ever, ever do because I know it's distracting or it's unprofessional. There are a lot of those things, and I see that happen, and I'm like, "You know what? I could get on social media and say, 'Oh, look at how this person is behaving in front of the camera. Look how unprofessional that is,' and discredit them." I would never, ever do it. I think it quietly in my head. I appreciate the information that's coming from them, and I move on with my day. Never would I feel like I need to get on there and tell somebody how they should do something or how they should feel about something or what they should think. So it's yeah, okay, yeah, I wanna, catch that one too. Um, yeah, it has annoyed me, and it does get more annoying to the point where I used to watch some people like, I wouldn't miss a single video, and I'm not there anymore. Not that I dislike anyone, I still think there's lots of stuff that they have to offer, and I appreciate it, and there are times I will specifically go to hear what they have to say about something. But stop treating us like children. Stop treating us like we're ignorant. Maybe we don't have a JD like you said, but we have a lot of other things that maybe are better than the attorney. Maybe we read people better. Maybe we have better reading comprehension. Maybe we have a better justice sensor. Maybe we can sum things up quicker. We all have something to contribute. And when a judge has made so many mistakes, like so many bad rulings and so many biased decisions, of course we're going to notice it. Julianne says the lawyers come across like the kids in an abusive family, have to normalize abuse and now fight the now adult kids trying to get therapy. It was so icky. That's why I said what I said about like doctors, because it's the same thing when they work in an ER. And I'm not saying anything bad about them. I'm just saying this is what happens. You just get callous. So, like in the ER, you can come in and to you've bled so much. You think, "Oh, all the blood must be just about out of my body." And they're like, "Oh, I've seen worse." So it doesn't phase them. So they might think you're overreacting. Or you've been vomiting for several days and you think you must be really dehydrated and they've seen worse. Or your blood pressure's out of control and they've seen worse. So they get used to that day in, day out. They no longer react to it. They think it's normal. Even if it happens to somebody they love, they don't react like we do. And the same thing is happening with these people. They've seen abusive judges for years or decades, and so they're used to it. They don't think it's a big deal anymore. That's just their opinion because they've grown callous to it. If they see, and several of them have mentioned different judges that they felt didn't like them because they just didn't rule in their favor. They just get used to it, but that doesn't mean that their opinion is right. It means that they're desensitized, and we're not. We're like, "That's not right." I think just about everybody at this point. I think people are getting, um Hens asks, "Who's complaining about us lay folks?" One of the content lawyer creators. I'm not pointing my finger at anyone specifically. I'm just saying, I think we're all getting, um, what's the word? Like, fatigue with this case. We're getting lively fatigue, and so we're starting to get a little crankier with each other. So, yeah, that's I'm just this is meant to be not, like, tear them down, but it's meant to be like a pep talk for you guys, that if you've had your feelings hurt, if you felt like you don't have a right to talk about it, I'm saying don't feel like that. Don't feel like that. We are not we don't do this day in, day out. And it upsets us, and we have just as much right to talk about it as the next person does. So yeah, I'm not trying to put them down. I'm trying to build us all up and say our opinion matters. We have a right to speak. The court just recognized that. They said this was released, but the public still doesn't have access to it. The public has asked the court. And so the judge is like, we've got to find a way to get this to the public. And I really appreciated that because I think it was telling all of us that we do matter, that this is our court system. We do have rights within it. And we do have a right to the freedom of this information. And so it kind of went along with this idea that just because we're not, we haven't passed the bar or we don't practice law, that our opinion doesn't matter or that we're stupid or that we need somebody to tell us as adults how we should feel and what we're allowed to say. That's just ridiculous. Okay. I don't go to see what any of them have to say about the judge. Yeah. Yes, I agree about that. That always makes me mad. Not little girl attorney was more kind than anyone about it the other day. She said something, but like towards the end, I was like, you should have stopped a few minutes ago. Let's see. I know what they have to say. He's smart and has procedures, and I'm not a lawyer. I know. Yeah, that's how it feels. But you know what? We're still emotionally intelligent sentience. We understand when something is not fair or right. I think many people with microphones, podcasts, think that they know everything and that their opinion is more important because they have a microphone and a platform. I think that tendency can happen when people are very, very flattering to us or something like that. If you're not careful, you can let it go to your head and you can start feeling a little more important than you should. We're all important equally. So we got to be careful not to let that go to our heads, I think. I physically can't watch them now. It's sad. Not a moral stance. Just can't do it. Yeah. Yeah. I think, like I said, I think we're starting to get fatigue with this case and frustrated, and yeah, it just gets hard. Ricardo says, bro, I have eyes and a sharp mind as well as a finely tuned nose for FNBS. I do too. I do too. I always know who the bad guy is in a room. And my whole body knows when you're lying to me. I can't even explain what happens. Or I don't even know what it is exactly that I see, but I think it's like all of the things that like a lie detector picks up, the change in breathing, the change in heart rate, the change in the face. Some of us have that, and it's a blessing and a curse, but some of us just have that while others don't. Like I knew right away there was something off with this guy. Yeah, I agree, irrelevant. It can't take. I mean, I won't say completely. I still do go to quite a few of them and listen. But yeah, when I get offended, I disappear for a little while. Don't go back for a little bit. And I used to not miss a single one. And pardon my cling. Yes, hence, thank you. We have common sense, and that's typically stronger than indoctrinated degrees. I agree. Some people can be very, very book smart and have very little street smarts. And yeah, they can end up in bad situations. Crazy Eye Claire. Oh my goodness, the more stuff that comes out about this woman. Have you guys been watching? I haven't like really been able to sit down and look into anything myself, but from time to time I would scroll my Instagram or my ex, but mostly on Instagram, I saw a bunch of little videos about her and I was like, okay, my first impression seems to be right. So, yeah. So many lawyers are saying you have to strategize around judges' biases. And that's the thing to me about some judges. They're just they're not good people. They're not nice people. They get grouchy. They get a God complex. They get used to everyone having to just listen to what they say. And they get, well, like that ruling that Lyman did where Wayfarer had presented a bunch of cases and then Michael Gottlieb had filed something and said he had stressed his opinion, and the judge ruled based on Michael's opinion only, not on any of the facts, but his opinion was wrong. And then he had to go back and change it because he hadn't used the facts when he made his decision. And it was about Jed Wallace being represented by Brian. And if the judge had looked back at the evidence, he would have seen that not long before, just a matter of weeks before, when he had ruled on Jed Wallace's motion to dismiss, that had come up. He had also early on, I think the very first motion hearing. So if he forgot that, you can almost forgive him for it, except he's supposed to go back and review stuff. And he had just ruled on it in the motion to dismiss. He, in that first motion hearing, it came up, it's on the transcript, that Brian represented Jed. But he forgot all of that information. That is what he should have been consulting, because all he did was take Mike Gottlieb's word for it. And to me, that was like a huge red flag. I'm like, why are you only considering this person? Yes, Jane, they get my side eye sometimes too. Yes, it's the managing of our thoughts and emotions. Like, we're not smart enough to be able to have those. You don't have to have passed the bar to be able to manage your own thoughts and emotions. So yeah, it needs to stop being addressed. We've heard it. We know how they feel. I'm the same way. Don't tell me what to do, because then that's all I want to do. Don't tell me not to do something, because that's all I want to do. I remember when I was a kid, 2 times. I don't remember. I shouldn't say I remember, because I just remember being told this. I don't remember it actually happening. But my mom was ironing, and I was watching, because the steam comes out and it's just so fascinating. You see this wrinkled fabric, and then it's just beautifully smooth. And I was just watching it, just enjoying it. Never would I have thought I want to touch it, right? But my mom goes, "Don't touch it." And so what did I do? I touched it. And then I had blistering burns on my fingertips. Thankfully, like I said, I don't remember. Another time she was sewing, and I'm watching it because it's really cool to watch a sewing machine. And she goes, "Don't touch it." Or, "Keep your hands back." Stick my hand in there. That's just, I'm still like that. It wouldn't cross my mind until you tell me that. Then I just want to do it. So just my own form of rebellion, I guess. But yes, I agree. MK says the lawyer types will not speak badly about Lemon. Lemon. I love all his nicknames. I found that Leanne and Omar to be the most honest about it. I agree. And I don't know if you guys saw, but I was so pleased to see there's a judge. Her name is Rachel. I think it's Rachel Juarez. And she's on a TV show called Hot Bench. I don't think I've ever seen it. I keep forgetting. Like, once I found out about her, I wanted to go watch it. But she's a judge. She is not an attorney. Just an attorney. She's a judge. And she teamed up with Omar, and they went through when he put the order out on the motions to dismiss for the Wayfarer stuff. There was a lot that she's like, what is he doing? And I don't want to misquote, so I don't want to say what popped in my head. But if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. It's on Omar's channel, and it's quite a while back, because he granted the motions to dismiss, I think it was June. So it was sometime in June or maybe July, and the 2 of those went through. And it was really refreshing to hear a judge talk about those decisions and what she felt as a judge he had done wrong when he was making those decisions. And that felt so good to hear that, because I went through it like, this is crazy. But nobody wants to listen to you if you're not willing to lay your credentials out. But other attorneys that I know, they had voiced just absolute they were flabbergasted by the stuff. There's another judge, I forgot her name, Liz, Judge Liz. I haven't seen her around for a while, but she had some stuff to say as well. So I'm like, this isn't just attorneys that I know saying this. This isn't just all of us saying this. There are some judges who were like, this is crazy. And I saw someone talk about their husband who's a judge and um a criminal judge. And he was even saying you have to be really careful that even if you have an awful client, you can't show bias toward, I mean, not client, but if you have a really, really awful defendant, a murderer or someone like that, even a judge in that case has to be super, super careful. And that's why I absolutely adored Judge Newman. I don't know if any of you ever got to see him on the bench, but that man, he was so patient and he wasn't well treated sometimes by the attorneys, but he was still so kind and showed grace and showed mercy and showed the most extreme patience I have ever seen. And after watching him, it's just really, really hard to see what's going on here. A nothing burger. Oh, you're talking about that recording. I agree. And they took little clips of it and they put it out of order. And when you're putting stuff out of order, there's a reason. You are strategically setting a certain narrative, in my opinion, at least. Because if the recording is what you're saying it is, you shouldn't have to move anything around. I understand clipping for time. If the whole recording is long and you want to just like clip the important parts and leave out what's not important, but when you start rearranging the timeline of the conversation, you're messing a little bit too much for me. So I think hearing this is going to be really, really good. And the fact that Steve is not saying, I want this kept sealed. He's like, mention it all. So ancient teapot. I love that teapot. I used to collect teapots when I lived in China. She says, he or she says, well, Cassidy, I always love your content, but tonight you're on fire. Thank you. You're so right that everyone brings something to the table, and sometimes the layperson sees through the professional fog. Absolutely. Absolutely. If any of you have a family member that's in the medical field, sometimes you feel like that's the last person you want to go to because they make you feel silly or like you're overreacting when you're worried about yourself or someone you love's medical condition because they're just so blasé about it. And I think that's what we have going on. We should. Jessica Lizzie, can we sue for lively fatigue? I wish we could. Yeah, I don't want to say anybody's name specifically because my point is to build us up and say our opinion matters. I don't really want to tear anybody down, but I don't want to say you guys can't say this. You guys can say whatever you want here as long as you're nice to each other. And even Mashante, I'm gonna learn this one of these days. Mashante Chaton. Don't laugh at me, but I probably said it wrong. Lena tried to show me how to pronounce it, but she used the international phonetic symbols, and we don't really use those in the States. At least I never learned them. We learned other things. But I remember when I went to China, some of my students would write things out in the international phonetic symbols and say, how do you pronounce this word? And I'd be like, I have no idea. Spell the word for me because I can't read that. So that didn't help me. So even if something was technically legally sound but not fair, that means the law could and should change. I agree. The law is a living thing. Yes, it's fluid. And bad laws can become new laws if people want them to. And that's one of the things that I've partially written the script for that Jones versus Abel thing because that thing really bothers me a lot. But I said I feel like laws are written for our protection, society as a whole. So the awful things that people do to each other, the law comes along and says, hey, you can't do this. And as people find more and more ways to do horrible things to each other, the law has to be expanded upon. Now we've got more ways to attack people. There's cyberbullying, and the law has not kept up with that even. That's been around a while, and they still haven't kept up with that yet. But this whole thing about stored electronic information, that's pretty complex. And if you are not into all of those definitions and what they actually mean, you can really misinterpret the law. But what I was like, the theme that I found in going through all that stuff is, so you have law enforcement, and then you have people that are trying to pass better laws to protect more people. And it's difficult, and it takes years, and it takes all of these hearings, and you have to fight, and you finally get your bill passed into law. And then the law comes into the court, and now I'm not talking about 47.1 because that really needs overhauled. But laws that are there for our protection, like wiretapping and the Stored Information Act, that kind of stuff, the stuff that he attacked by granting that they be dismissed. Those kinds of things are there to protect us from that awful sneaky behavior of somebody getting into our devices where they don't belong and taking information where they don't belong. And that's the purpose of these laws that are there. And I feel like as soon as it comes to court, these defense attorneys and these judges, they come through and just completely dismantle the laws that are there to protect us. So I'm looking at all that and I'm like, this is so messed up. As soon as the law is there, law enforcement wants it, law enforcement tries to enforce it, and then it comes to court. The laws that say this is criminal behavior, this person is a criminal and needs locked away from society because they're harming people. And then the court, where you're supposed to get your justice, says, oh, it's not so criminal after all. It's just, well, we can find this loophole around it. And then the criminals who didn't follow the law and harmed someone just get away with it or get very, very minimal punishment. So this is crazy. What is this about? Fill me in which lawyer clerk said something. As a member of the public, I have a right to know. I'm nosy and I love gossip. I don't think there's not any one particular person or one person that's been awful all the time. I think just in general, there's been this separation of them and us kind of being looked down upon. And yeah, that sort of thing. So I mean, I don't want to start a war or seem like I'm attacking anybody in particular or a group of people in particular. I just want to say for us, we have to let that go. We have to just shake that off, let it just roll off our backs or whatever. I always get sayings wrong. Those with addictive personalities might want to back away from the microphone. I think that's true too. I think it's really important, and I feel bad because I'm gone a lot, but I think it's really, really important that we do step away and we do take breaks, because I have felt myself getting out of control at times where I feel like the anger just stays with me. So I already have like a hyperfixation when I'm really into something. That's all I want to do. And I think I've talked to you guys before how I will just get started and hours will just pass and I will forget to eat. I will forget to drink. It will be like 7:30 p.m. and I'm like, why does my stomach hurt? Oh, I didn't eat anything today. So I already have a situation like that. But when it gets to where even after I walk away and try to just be a person, if my mind keeps drifting back to it and I feel myself feeling angry, I'm like, why am I angry? What's wrong with me? And then I remember, oh, it's this case. then I feel like, okay, it's time to take a little bit of a break, back away, and let it go for a while because it isn't healthy. It's not healthy for your vagus nerve, your amygdala, and all these words I've been searching and trying to learn about. You do have to take a break because it does start to get to you. So I think that's kind of what's happening to a lot of people who aren't letting themselves take breaks. Oh, there was a video of someone who used to clerk, and yeah, that is in the my recorded video, that's what I was talking about that had made me mad because it was the excuses that were being put forward, like, "Oh, we just don't know how hard it is to be a law clerk, and what you have to do in September." And I'm like, "Excuse me, but the people who have cases in September deserve the same amount of attention and the same amount of justice as January through August and October through December." So, yeah, that actually made me laugh. The poor clerks, don't ask them to find exhibits. Public records aren't actually meant to be requested by them. Yeah, that was not I did not wanna hear excuses for why somebody doesn't get the proper justice and attention in September. That was a terrible, terrible take for me. Terrible take. The former judge who occasionally covers this, we thought and no, I don't know about that. Yes, Matt says it's normal for a judge to get desensitized to some extent, but when the very basic and clear line is in your face, and he is simply making calls based on technicality, they're a joke. I agree. I agree. You have to keep I mean, I know whatever it is that we do in our life, we do start to get we lose the zeal we had at first. That's normal and natural, but when you hold such an important position as a judge, you cannot let that happen. If you let that happen, then you need to take off your robe and walk away. It's really that simple. Okay, let's see. Justin says, at a concert, but wanted to say hi and down with B. Thank you, Justin. I think last time you were watching a wrestling match. You have a very exciting life. I hope it's a good concert. You know who I want to see? I just found this guy. His name is Steven Sanchez. It's spelled like with a PH, looks like Stefan, but I think it's pronounced Steven. I'm not sure. This young guy, he's in his like early 20s, I think, but um he records songs like from the 50s and 60s, that style. It's his own songs. It's not like he's redoing old songs, but they have that sound. And I feel like I'm at my grandma's house, like I'm a kid. I can almost smell my grandma's house when I hear his music. And I just want it on a record. I wanna hear the needle hit the record and play his songs. They are so, so beautiful. But I just found out he's touring, and, I would love to go see him. If you guys like that kind of music, I just feel like that's some of the best, best music ever. It's truly romantic and just the sound of it, and I know it's because it reminds me of my grandparents and being at my grandparents' house, so that's probably a lot of it, but I just feel like that's, like, the one of the best eras of music ever, and but when you said concert, it made me think I just saw that he's on tour right now, and I'm like, "I wonder if I could see him somewhere." Okay, let's see. Yes, Rachel is Lauren's bestie, yes. Yeah, she's gone to visit her hot bench, that's Judge Judy is wouldn't you guys love to hear Judge Judy's take on this case? I would pay the woman. I think we need to, like, start a fund just to invite her to speak on this case. Oh, Christina says they told me not to pet the racehorse, so I pet the racehorse and it bit me on the shoulder. I knew we were kindred spirits. I said nothing, but at dinner I took my jacket off and there was a huge bruise. The things we do as a kid. Yep. Yeah, horse bites. I went horseback riding with my sisters one time and my horse had it just for some reason I don't know why it just leaned over and bit my youngest sister's leg and I didn't know how bad it was until after we finished riding and she pulled her pant leg up. It was a huge bruise. It was awful. I felt really bad that it was my horse that did it. I mean, it wasn't my horse, but the horse I was riding that day. I was like, man, I would have beat it if I didn't known it did that to my little sister. Yes, that's it. Judge Liz absolutely ate the judge's strange orders and Van Zandt up. She did. And I was so glad because at the time, people were, it seemed like any of the attorneys that were talking about it back then, I saw that there was a group of 4 of them. I haven't watched the entire video. I think it came out when I was in Korea and I started it, but I didn't get to finish it and then I forgot to go back and watch it. But I was happy to see that they went off on Van Zandt. But in the beginning, it wasn't like that. There weren't so many, or at least I didn't know how so many attorneys that were talking about the case. And the ones that were talking about it were praising the attorneys for doing the whole Van Zandt sham. And I was like, what world am I living in? So Judge Liz was one of the first ones to like shred it. And she didn't care what anybody else was saying to her. I think there was some attorneys on her channel and they disagreed, but she's like, this is crazy. I need to go back and watch that again. Yeah, I haven't seen her for a while. And I subscribed, so I feel like it would have come up if she was making stuff. I need to go in and see because I know some of like I had been unsubscribed to Bushbirds. I never did that, but I keep hearing that that happens. I've had people tell me they were unsubscribed from my channel or that they weren't getting notifications for my channel. So I should go see. Maybe she's making them and she's on the naughty list and we're not getting notified. Van Johnson says, "Are you related to Van Zandt?" No, I'm just kidding. Van Johnson says, "Well, Judge Louis Jeffrey Lyman is an uncredited, undisclosed attorney for Manette, hence the crazy decisions." It feels like it sometimes. It honestly does. Oh, thank you, Just Ricardo. I look forward to you being in the chat. Hence, the lady juror with the egg and his sentencing of Alex was wonderful. So you saw Judge Newman. Wasn't he the best? Oh my goodness. Yes, Jane says his patience with Dick Harpootlian was so awful to that man. No respect at all. Like he was not standing before a judge. It made me furious. And I saw it in person a couple times and I wanted to get up and go slap that man. But never did Judge Newman raise his voice or get nasty. He would look at him like with like kind of a grin on his face, like, you're just absolutely disgusting. But he wouldn't say anything awful. I mean, he was just, and I watched some of his other cases after I saw him, and the way that he would talk to people when he sentences them, especially if their crime is like really, really awful, he like, I don't know what better word to say than righteous. He has mercy, but he also knows like this is wrong, but you can see in his eyes and you can hear in his voice that he wants them to be better people. He's not like, lock you up and throw away the key or death penalty to you. He's like, you can feel that he wants them to become better people. And I just love that. That's how we should all be. We should all want people to do better, ourselves included. Yes, I have a strong feeling this conversation isn't even roughly going to say what Blake is implying. I agree. What 100% won't be there is anything about dead bodies and I I think I'm gonna say it. Is it Hamas or Hamas? I always Hamas. Sorry if I say it wrong, but yeah, I get names wrong a lot. I don't know why they won't stick in my head. Yeah, they only used a few seconds from a 15 plus um conversation. Karen Reed's judge was terrible. There's a lot of really bad judges out there. Yes, the extension. Sit on it and don't rule, but you don't have to give her that extension. What she asked for was already too much. I was like, he better not give her what she's asking for. And then he gave her weeks more than that. But like you said, sit on it, don't rule. You don't have to give her a longer time to give yourself a longer time. It's not like once she turns it in that you have to rule in days. That's what made me mad. I'm like, you cannot tell me that everything is fine with this judge when he did that. He could say, I'm not ruling on summary judgment now. But not summary judgment, sorry. The judgment on the pleadings. He could say that, but he didn't have to give her the extension as well. Yes, I love this community, and I want to build you guys up because you build me up. And we need to do that for each other because there's a lot in society that is not like that right now. So when Ellen was talking about what makes something frivolous, it was interesting. She pointed out that there's a basis in law and fact, or for changing a law, there's still something. Yeah, I love Ellen. I just adore that woman. Hey, Don't F with Justice. She's got some good stuff out. If you guys don't follow her on X and YouTube, make sure to go check her out. She's a deep diver, a deep thinker, and she's smart. She puts it together really, really fast. And that's, to me, that's what we need more of. Doesn't matter what her background is. That's the thing I say all the time, Matt. Imagine if Justin didn't have a billionaire behind him and he was just a small-time filmmaker with $150K in the bank. Blake would win because the judge is a criminal for dragging this on. It's so true. It's so true. Can you imagine to stand up to this? I mean, he would have been absolutely bankrupted and just walked all over. It's just really, really sad. It's just amazing what Steve is willing to do. And he's blessed for it, I think. Did you see he's now past 2 billion net worth? So if there's a lesson in that, it's be good to other people and you get rewarded. I mean, look at what's happening to Blake and Ryan. They're aging like milk left in the trunk in August. Ricardo's trying to tell me how to pronounce it. I'll get it one of these days. Yes, the case has shown us that the rich and powerful get away with everything or just a slap on the wrist. And that's what I don't want to happen. That's why I feel, even though this isn't the typical kind of, yeah, it is. This isn't the typical kind of case that I follow. But because of that it's, this, rich and powerful getting what they want and just stomping all over the little guy. That's what keeps me in here. I'm not the kind of person that cares about celebrities or knows what they're up to or fans out over them. But it's that aspect of this case that keeps me here. Gary Bella says, I turned my anger into sarcasm and tease Cassidy about milk jugs. That's how I cope. If you guys weren't here the other night, I was trying to say the words to the my milkshakes brings all the boys to the yard. And I said, was it yard? I probably got that wrong too. It's an old song. And I said milk jugs instead of milkshakes. I felt so stupid. She said I went down to the milk jug rabbit hole today. Yep, I got it wrong. God, it's so wrong. I think this chat is I've let it I think I'm way, way behind on it. I'm probably missing some really good comments, but I don't wanna keep you guys too long because then I get messages about how long my stream was and how I just meandered too much. And you guys know, I already told you, when you tell me something that tell me not to do something or tell me to do something, it makes me wanna do the opposite. Well, to the people who wanna put that in my comments, if you wanna come here and tell me, I honestly I hope that you have someone with that spirit in your life that's following you around and telling you that how everything that you do is wrong. I hope someone's bringing that same energy to you that you, for some reason, wanna bring to content creators. It's not easy to do what we do. It may look like it's easy, but it's not. We have to do a lot of research, and I used to be better at public speaking because, like I said, I was a teacher, then I was a director, but it's been a while, and a lot of things have happened with me in the meantime, and so, like, getting used to all that again was really, really difficult. My first times I went live, I can't even stand to, like I don't even like to go back and hear my live ones because I hear myself all the things that I repeat or the too long pauses in between while I try not to say, "So," or or something like that. So the whole time you're talking, you're trying to remember what you're gonna say and not say those words, not make mistakes, and you remember all the criticisms that people have nastily written to you. It's not easy. The first times I went live, because it had been years since I had spoken publicly, and it's why I do most of my stuff pre-recorded so I can take out all the mistakes and stuff, but I was soaked. Like, I'm not a sweater, but I was soaked. I had to go take a shower. My clothes were wet. That's how intense it was and how difficult it was for me because criticism is it's coming and and it's hard and I take it to heart. I'm like, man, I did really, really bad. I mean, nobody criticized me as bad as I criticized myself. So, that stuff comes along and then I'm like, I can't imagine feeling the need to watch someone's YouTube and then tell them what I hated about it. I don't understand it. I don't understand. Like, do you feel better after you do that? But yeah, people are like, "It's so long. I can't watch it when it's this long. Why don't you make shorter ones?" Oh my gosh, I couldn't take the meandering. I know I meander. I tell you guys I meander. But I sometimes I just want to come here and talk with you guys. So it's when I really want everything to be said a specific way, that's when I record it. But sometimes I just want to come and chat with you guys. So I think people get used to the recorded version and then they don't want to hear me just chat. But it's like, let me be more than one type of person. Sometimes I'm in a different mood, right? Now I'm ranting. Sorry, guys. My emotions are just not in a good place. So, yeah, we're just emotionally exhausted. I mean, few days in the hospital will do that. Glow says, won't matter because the BL brain dead call will say the audio proves her case. I'm sure they're already saying it. I just sometimes I'm like, I just can't even read this. I feel like Ellen was dropping a hint that she thinks there's a possibility that even if the law doesn't totally support their claims, they made a case for a change in law. Let's hope. I keep hoping that after this Van Zandt thing finally gets brought to a court of law and discussed, that there will be some crackdown. There has got to be a crackdown because that cannot be the only time this has happened. I would bet $1 million that I don't have that that is not the first time that that has been abused that way. Somebody didn't just think that up for the first time with this. So I hope that if anything comes of this beyond Wayfarer winning, that gets dealt with so people don't that could be so dangerous. Imagine people who are stalking victims and someone's trying to find them or find information about them, and they can use something like that. Or wives who are in hiding from their abusive husband or their abusive partner, and he can do something like that. That has a potential to be so dangerous. Thank you, Mr. Lord. You're right about taking breaks. Over 2 weeks, then I couldn't eat or sleep for almost 3 days, thought I was dying. I had to go to the hospital and needed 3 bags of IV potassium. Yes, I just bought, because I do that consistently, I just bought, some electrolyte powder you mix with water, but it tastes so terrible. It had all these flavors on the package, like raspberry lemonade and strawberry kiwi, but it's because 'cause it's got both sweet and salty in it, because it's meant to restore your electrolytes. So it's like, the most condensed Pedialyte I've ever tasted, or Gatorade, one of those. It's so, so gross, but that reminds me, I haven't drunk it today. See, I'm gonna forget to drink that, so I'm just gonna stay in a state of dehydration. But yeah, take breaks, people. We all need to do it. Steve was willing to clarify in his deposition he's down to drop the coin necessary to protect his company and business associates. He's generous if he believes in a cause, and it's a good cause. Okay, but I hope you're okay, Mr. Lord. That's a lot of IV, 3 bags. I hope you're okay now. Milk left in the trunk in August. They are. They are aging like that, and they have no one to blame but themselves. And Mr. Lore says, it's wonderful to hear your voice again. Oh, there's Lena. Good to hear you laughing, Cassidy. Good to see you again. All right. How long is Ezra going to make us wait for that Steve Horowitz audio? I know. I feel like that's why I said, like, well, I hope they put it on that website. It's a recording of Steve. He should get say in where it goes. Just stick it on there. We want to hear it. But tomorrow we are supposed to find out what they're doing. And hey Joe, good to see you. And oh, thanks. Yes, she got to come home now. So she's recovering now. We just got to get her fattened up. But you know what? I had bought, because she's so tiny, and we were trying to fatten her up already, and now she's like down to 92 pounds. But I had bought these powders, these protein powders, and she can't handle dairy. So it was really hard picking out good ones that were like plant-based. And so I got those to try to help her. She was using them. And then one of the nights she was in the hospital, the news comes on, and they say somebody has tested these protein drinks and they have lead in them. So if any of you are on protein drinks, look it up and find out if yours is one of the ones, because it's linked, like the dairy one, some of those had 0 lead, but there's something about what they use. And it's vegetable, it's plant protein, but it's some plants absorb more heavy metals out of the ground than others do. And if you have them so concentrated as like in this powder form shake, it's not like just eating a few on your plate. It's a lot of them. So it creates a situation where there's too much lead. Well, I was just absolutely flabbergasted. Not only were some of them just outrageously full of lead, but supplements are not tested in any way, shape, or form by the FDA or anyone. Vitamins, supplements, not tested. I got this at Whole Foods, off the shelf, an American supermarket, and it is not tested by anyone. I could not wrap my head around that. And full of lead. And if someone hadn't independently collected them and tested them, we wouldn't know. We would have no idea, because there's no government agency doing it. So please check if you take supplements every day, they're not regulated. So look into them and just be careful. Cause I was so mad. I'm taking them back. And I'm getting my money back, even though they're open, because you can't sell stuff like that. That's harmful to people. And then I felt like it was my fault that my mom was sick because she was drinking those every day. Here I thought like it was helping her, you know. I was so proud that I got them and they were expensive. And I'm like, Mom, did you drink it today? And one of the top things was it sends your blood pressure crazy. So, I felt like the whole thing was my fault. So they're taking it back. If not, they're gonna have to see the ugly side of me because I'm not leaving that store without my money back after that. Thank you, Kenny. She said, if they don't like it, they should make it live. So we love chatting with you. Team, don't tell creators what to do. Absolutely. And nobody tells Kenny what to do. That is for certain. Go check that woman out on X. She has got some of the funniest posts. Yeah, we never heard about the deposition. It passed already. What was it? Was it September 30th? I feel like it was one of like 4 depositions that same day. But yeah, it passed. But because there was no further, we only get to hear things if there's some kind of trouble behind it and they have to come to the judge and say, hey, judge, we're having this trouble, help us. So apparently it passed without incident because we never got to hear more. So unfortunately, we don't know who was deposed or any idea what was said. Glow says after what happened to Britney Spears, again, the laws about public figures being able to sue for defamation needs to change. There are a couple of Supreme Court justices, and I know one of them isn't a favorite. He's kind of got his own skeletons in the closet, but there are a couple of them that have been saying for a long time that needs to be the malice standard, because it's impossible. Especially if it's a public figure or the press, it's impossible to overcome. And they keep saying it needs to be rewritten, that it's a different world now than it was in 1964 when that standard was decided. But until a case comes to them and until 4 of them agree, it's not going to happen. So if there's no recording, I'm going to pass. We'll see. Cassidy, I order you not to care about what people tell you to do, especially me. Well, you never tell me to do anything bad, so. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to try Ensure pudding. The Ensure, one of the protein drinks with Ensure had lead. So I think I have to carefully, I don't know what I'm going to do unless I just like give her nut butters all the time. Like you can get not just peanut butter, but you can get what's that, macadamia. I saw macadamia nut butter. Surprisingly, it didn't taste good. I thought it was going to be delicious, but it was kind of gross. Cashew butter. Some of the other nuts have a little more fat in them than like an almond, so I'll have to figure something to do for her, because I don't want it to just be like bad weight gain. It has to be healthy weight gain. But with all these bad things in the food, I'm like, well, now what do I do? It was was it Consumer Reports? I caught the tail end of the report on the news and then I looked it up. Yeah, they had a list of ones you should stop, and then there were some, yes, each one was rated like how many per week you could have. But I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Once I know there's lead, forget it. She doesn't get any. I took them, and tomorrow I want to go to Whole Foods and get myself worked up. I mean, I've got to get mad again first. But maybe if the recording comes out tomorrow and it makes me mad enough, I'll listen to that first and then go in with all that power. behind me. All right, Mr. Lord says make the store. Yes, make the store clerk drink a bottle with you. Yes, if you don't want to give me my money back. But yeah, someone said, what if they don't give you the money back? But my sister, who knows me very, very well, she's like, oh, she's getting her money back. So yeah, I read the avocado and nut butter. Yeah, avocado has good fat. That's a good idea. I used to make, because I was completely off sugar, and I would make my own ice cream, and I would use avocado because it comes out really, really creamy. And when I first heard of, because I've always had avocado like with guacamole, with tomatoes and onions and garlic, So when I first heard about like a sweet avocado, I thought, oh, that's so gross. And then I tried it and it was absolutely delicious. So I would boil dates and like make a mash and use that for sweetener, and banana, freeze some really ripe bananas and then put them in there. And because I was used to not having any sugar at all, that tasted really sweet to me. And oh my goodness, that was so creamy and delicious. I added cream too because I love dairy. But that's a really good idea. Thank you for that matcha latte. Pistachio butter. It is. Pistachio butter is good. I have had that. That's good. And I like sun butter, but I don't know how much fat's in that because I'm allergic to peanuts. So I don't like, I used almond butter like out of desperation, but sun butter is delicious. It's made from sunflower seeds and it tastes better than almond butter. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to have to call it a night. It's been an hour and a half already. Thank you, Jane. And thank you, everyone, for all of your sweet, sweet messages about my sweet, sweet mama. And yeah, I'm working on that. The order that granted almost the entire case against Stephanie Jones, because I feel like there's a lot of error in his decisions, and so I want to. I've already looked up like tons of case law and definitions about these electronic things and what they actually mean instead of the way he interpreted them. And Kylie says, I'm making ice cream now. You're giving me ideas, Cass. It was delicious. It was delicious. I loved it. All right. Thank you for reminding me, Christina. Thank you, mods. Thank you, Lena, Jane, and Christina so much. I always forget, and then I have to type it in the chat real quick before the chat disappears. Thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful night.